Hi, this is our presentation on Teaching and Facilitation by Lisa Lelm and Heather Moon. Today our learning objectives are to distinguish between teaching and facilitation, identify frameworks that inform teaching and facilitation, explore power, privilege, and oppression models and ways to navigate facilitating and learning with these concepts at play, and to understand the relationship between student affairs professionals and their students' use of social media. Our chapter begins with a scenario about Brandon, a hall director who works at a predominantly white campus. He manages 5 or 6 white women and 1 black man who are resident assistants. He's been trying to process the traumatic events of police brutality against black men during the summer as his staff returns for a retreat. His main goals of the retreat are for his staff to 1, gain awareness of that privilege exists, and 2, to reflect on their intersected social identities. I think this opening anecdote is a really good reminder about all the things that student affairs professionals do. It showcases the importance of responding to students' needs while also balancing their own self-care and healing. I was pleasantly surprised to see that this book has a very progressive definition of teaching. Teaching should be a two-way street between teachers and students where they can exchange and share knowledge and lived experiences. This can be uncomfortable at first, but teachers can support students in challenging power imbalances to actively reflect on their lives and the world. The core principle of teaching should be that everyone contributes. Students do not learn best and are not engaged by simply sitting in a lecture hall and then regurgitating information. Students do learn best when teachers combine small stories and lived experiences with traditional ways of teaching in order to tie in the larger themes and ideas of what they are studying. Student affairs builds on the ideas of progressive teaching but has a less directive approach. Student affairs professionals lean more heavily on reflection, guided activities, asking important questions, and paying attention to the voices in the space. They engage students in conversations about privilege, power, and oppression, most often in places like women's centers, multicultural affairs centers, and LGBTQIA+ centers. They train staff members, manage group conflict, set expectations, and hold students accountable, and work to build community within their workspace. This happens more often in student activities, resident life, orientation, first-year programs, academic advising, and more. When being a facilitator in diversity affairs such as women's centers, multicultural affairs, or LGBTQ+ centers, it's important to note that you need to take a critical and dialogical approach. Critical means that you are attuned to the fact that some large systems can have inherent racism, classism, sexism, and heterosexism. These issues can be inherent in large systems such as laws, schools, policies, and the judicial system. Facilitators use a critical approach to pose questions and rely on the students' experiences in order to understand the student's role in maintaining or dismantling the systems of power. A dialogical approach is when a facilitator guides the process of students coming to know by sharing appropriate readings, reflection activities, and questions. The facilitator is a guide that helps students sort out their own understanding of complex issues and their place in them. The facilitator can acknowledge and hear the complex feelings such as guilt, anger, hopelessness, and shame that can come with this work. When facilitating in diversity affairs, it's important for the facilitator to be using both critical and dialogical approaches in understanding when each type is necessary and how to flex between them. Examples of facilitating in other student affairs settings are for resident life, like resident assistants, dining hall employees, campus activities and student organizations, and academic advising. Working in these student affairs areas requires different kinds of skills in facilitation. Using multi-partiality when working on disputes is important because it recognizes power differentials between parties in conflict, whereas neutrality does not. Multi-partiality means navigating numerous perspectives rather than showing a preference for one or the other. This can be often used to settle roommate disputes. Building community is a very important part of campus life and can be done by using peer facilitators in settings like residence halls, orientation, and first-year programs, or among staff members. This can build trust among students and in collaboration with other faculty. Student conduct always seems to be an issue in student affairs, and restorative justice can be a powerful and meaningful remedy. Restorative justice is the practice of facilitating a student's understanding of their violation, how it affects others beyond themselves, and helps develop ways for the student to take ownership in repairing the harm it has caused to the community. The Chickering-Gamison 7 principles are all intended to be applied by student affairs educators when working with students. Number 1 is student-faculty contact. Contact between students and faculty members is used as a way to improve student learning. Number 2 is cooperation among students. Developing reciprocity and connection among other students is important in building their community. Number 3 is active learning. Active learning is the opposite of sitting idly while listening to lectures, reciting facts, and spitting out answers. It's learning a skill by doing and practicing in a real-life situation. Students are better able to then actively reflect on and apply what they learned. Number 4 is prompt feedback. Prompt feedback can enable students to reflect on their behavior and learning in order to see what they knew, what they're missing, and how to see ideas differently. Number 5 is time on task. This allows time for students to both learn by doing the task and time to reflect on how it went, what they learned, and how they can move forward. Number 6 is high expectations. You can offer students adequate support to meet those high expectations in order for them to learn. Number 7 is respecting diverse talents. This principle encapsulates the role of teaching and facilitating in order to respond to diverse learners' needs. This chapter closes with attention to social media because it has become a way for students to engage with issues happening in their campuses and society. The following 3 ways students see and use social media are important for student affairs professionals to pay attention to. The first one is social media and activism. Students use many different social media platforms for many different reasons. Some use it to become more involved with the issues that affect their communities, while others are participating in what is called slacktivism, which is only posting or reposting comments on social media without actually engaging in actions to make change in society. Professionals in student affairs should help students make sense of their social media activism and connect the activism to local issues on campus and in their communities, and resist the urge to label it as slacktivism. Critical consumers. Student affairs professionals should seek to become critical consumers and encourage their students to do the same. Social media also comes with some defensiveness and shame. Students may experience or witness posting something that someone else finds offensive. Then several users can heavily critique the original poster, which then leads to shame for those actions. If this book were published more recently, this would probably be called cancel culture. The facilitator needs to work with the student's feelings of shame in ways that invite the student to continue engaging rather than retreating. They can work to help students understand different defense modes, normalize them, and be able to comfortably speak about them. This can help build a student community instead of dividing it. There are a lot of impacts that this chapter has on student affairs today. I think the 3 most important are that student affairs professionals should lean into the teacher and facilitator roles. The more they can flex between those 2 areas, the more it helps with students' learning and engagement. The second is that student affairs has a big impact on student learning and life on and off campus. And I think for the most part, it's important for us to remember that as we are teaching and facilitating. And then last, student affairs professionals can serve as models and guides for how to use social media ethically, and they can help students sort through feelings of things that they see on social media as well, and their reactions and effects it has on them. So this is also, I think, really important in terms of having some therapy or counseling skills in order to be able to help students sort through the feelings that they experience when they're on social media. That's all for our presentation today. Thank you.